Welcome back to the channel Style by C. Today's tutorial will be on how to make this beautiful top. So the first thing I'll be marking is the full length of my top. So I decided to exhaust this. I'm using this as my full length. Then I'm going to be marking my shoulder measurement, which is 7.5. So this is my start point. This is 7.5. My shoulder measurement. From there, I'll come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Then from there, still mark my 7.5 again. That is my armhole. Then I'll be marking 3 inches here, which is my neck width. Then I'll connect it to my 1 inch shoulder slope, right? Then I'm going to divide my armhole measurement by 2. From there, I'll be coming in by half. I'm placing my tape back. That's my actual shoulder measurement. Then I'll come in by half an inch. Then I'll connect it. Connecting this to this 1 inch here. Then from here, I'll make my armhole curve. Alright, now I'll be imputing my bust measurement plus my seam allowance. Then the waist measurement, or you can decide to rule it straight. From that bust, you go down. If you don't want it to be tight, if you want it to be open as seen in the picture, so just rule it down. Then you cut. So this is my front piece. I'll be using this to cut out my back. So for the back now, I left 1.5 inches for my zip allowance. Alright, from here to here is 1 inches, 1.5 inches for my zip allowance. Then I'll cut it out. Alright, then we'll now work on the neck. The width, as you know, is 3 inches. The depth for the front one, I'm working with 4 inches deep. Then for the back piece, the depth is going to be 2 inches. So I first of all cut out of this. Now the depth of your front neck is totally your choice. You can decide to make it deep, you can decide to make it too taut too, but I think 4 is okay with me. But I can also decide to alter it and make it more deep. So this is what I have. Then we'll now cut a lining for this, and then the sleeve. Alright, so this is my top. This is the lining and the fabric. Alright, so as usual, the material is longer than our lining. So what I'm going to do now is first of all, I'm going to run a stitch on the neck area. Then at the hem, I'm also going to run a stretch stitch on it. Then I'm going to also run a stitch on the both sides of this top. That's both sides of it, the neck first, the hem, then the both sides. But I'm going to leave the armhole area. I'm not running a stitch on it. Then for the back piece, first of all, I'll run a stitch on the neck part, the hem. After the neck, the hem, then I'll run a stitch on the zipper allowance, this part, then the side. So now I'm done joining my lining to my materials. I've joined my linings to my materials. This is what I have. Then I ironed it to make it smooth. The next thing I'll be doing is to join the shoulders together. All right, so this is my front and this is my back. So now I'll pick the two shoulders together, right side to right side, and I'm going to stitch on it. All right, the same thing I will do to this other parts of the shoulder. The next thing I did before attaching my sleeve was to put my zip. Though you can still decide to put your to put your sleeve before attaching your zip, but I think I should put my zip before we work on the sleeve. All right. So now for the zip, I'm going to be just like how we did for the skirt. Just run a stitch, normal way of putting your zip. All right. After which you now flip over to this other side to put it. Basic sleeve. I'll be dropping a link on how I drafted this basic sleeve, so it's up on the channel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this my basic sleeve on top of my fabric. It's folded into four. All right. Then the next thing I'm going to measure is from this point now. I'm going to measure about 12 inches or more, depending on how wide you want it to be. If you want it to be more flayed, you can use 15, 20 or more, but I'm working with 12.5 inches. All right. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, this is where this thing is stopping. Then I'm going to connect it to my 12.5 inches. Connecting this to my 12.5 inch. All right. You understand? So this is what I have, and I'll be placing it and cutting it out this way. So after cutting it out this way, this is my center point, which looks like a V shaped form. So what I'm going to do is, now from this point I'm going to be marking 2 inches, or I can decide to work with 1.5 inches, depending on how deep you want it to be. You can decide to work with 2.5 inches, but I'm working with 1.5 inch. Then I'm going to connect it back to this my 12 inches. So now I will still cut it. Alright, so this is what my sleeve will be looking like. Okay, so all I have to do is just to fold the down part of it, then join it to my shoulder. So the next thing I'll be doing is, this is my shoulder. All right, and this is the center of my sleeve. So I'll be joining it here, then I'll run a stitch to close it up, run a stitch to close it up this way. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be marking my shaping line. All right, so I'm working with my bust measurements, which is 8.5. I can decide to add extra ½ inch or 1 inch to it, but now I'm going to be adding ½ inch to it, making it 9. I'm just going to mark it down. I'm not working with my waist measurements here. The same thing here. I'll mark my 9 inches. You can decide to add. So this is the final look of what I have. This is how the top is. Then I will now tutorial on how to make the skirt is also up on YouTube. I'm also going to drop the link so you can be able to access it. Thank you so much for watching. To subscribe, give us a thumbs up and share to friends. Love you.